I don't think that sound got through. Let me try again. Ding. There. Couldn't do it without. Oh. Hola community, welcome to BlenderToday live. Is my mic on? Yes, because I was coughing out of while the introduction was happening. I'm a bit under the weather, but we'll do our best because Blender moves on, life moves on. This episode contains 4.5, the last for 4.5. Blender 5 contains 2 splash screens, one game release, one Blender Studio made game release using Blender and Godot, and a new batch from Blender ID, Blender conference news, and you to hang out and make this better. So how about we start by looking at the new splash screen. We have 2 new splashes because 4.5 LTS became beta. It's a beta release. You have to test it, please, as much as possible, because it's gonna stay there around for 2 years. 2027 will be the last remaining bits of 4.5 activeness. Then this is a cute this is a cute splash, the one that you would like to see, you know, something nice and warm and fuzzy feeling, and it is part of Dog Walk, the game by the Blender Studio. But then you also have another version of Blender, another release cycle that starts today, which is Blender 5. And Blender 5, the development of Blender 5 usually comes with its own splash. So usually what we've been doing for the previous release cycles is to have a nice splash, like people smiling, something nice, and then the equivalent of panic and when things don't go as planned. I mean, he's having a great but the guy behind it not so much. I don't know if you remember, it also was the same case for the 4.5 and 3.0 and the 4.0 releases, and the development releases also with the one from Pets, from the Pet Project by Blender Studio as well. Hello. Let's once we see this, we can move into other kind of new. Let's see what other news are there. Okay, a small one. If you filled up the Blender survey, which you can find out about if you go to survey.blender.org, or if you go to blender.org and follow this one, if you filled it up last year in October, you might have noticed that in some places, such as projects.blender.org or DevTalk or other Blender websites that support the badges, you will see there is now a new badge that you can find here, and it's a little calendar with the 24 in it. Along the ones that you may have if you donated to Blender, or you participated in any kind of, you have a membership of the development fund, you will also get one of those badges, like this kind of badges. What else? The button is red now, yes. Hoping that helps. Apparently there is a study by Thunderbird, the Mozilla Thunderbird, and that once they added animation to the donate button, apparently they got way more donations. So we are trying that here. No, that's completely unrelated, but not totally unrelated, but pretty much unrelated. Blender conference, yes, it's the last week today. Well, today until the 16th. You have 6 more days to submit a presentation if you want to talk about the whatever you do, studio related, you want to give some training to the Blender conference attendees, and it will be recorded online. You can still submit a talk, so go to conference.blender.org, submit talk, and here you can see the deadline is on the 16th of June. And there are other important dates here. Also for the Susanna Awards, we still have plenty of time, but please, if you plan to talk at the conference, let us know. then it's a big moment. Dog Walk, it's on Steam, and you can now, if you have a Steam account and you care about these things, or you care about Blender, you can also wishlist it, which you get a notification when it comes out, but also it helps the project. I mean, it's gonna be free anyway, so there's nothing really other than supporting Blender and Blender Studio to more people to find out about the game, and hopefully maybe want to use the game want to know how the game is made, and then get the studio subscription to see the files. But yeah, that's it. That's all the announcements I have as of this week. Oh wait, another announcement, because Dogwalk ended, and then I'm showing you a spoiler here because I'm logged in. I see unpublished articles. There's an asset creation process article that's coming up. There is no published date yet, so stay tuned. However, there are 2 new projects announced. The Project Storm, which is a rigging related. It's a new character, and it's gonna be a playground for a new rig that will be released by the Blender Studio using new techniques for shape keys. And hopefully development. Actually, there is some development done related to this project. And what else? Let me give it a heart also to support. Then announcing Singularity, the new project by Andy Koralchik. You may know him from Spring, and pretty much every other open movie on as an art direction from for Elephant's Dream and Big Bug Bunny back then. Singularity, it's a epic space adventure with a painterly look to the test, similar to what was done with the Brushstrokes tools for Project Gold, but imagine that taken to the next level. So super nice coming up. And also, I guess Grease Pencil too, because Grease Pencil geometry nodes didn't exist back then for the previous project. So I'm looking forward to see what the team is gonna make then. Let's see. That is all. That's all the announcements I have to make. I think. Let's see what's new in Blender as of today. Oh wait, no, not that one. This today, and then the last week, the last few weeks. Again, nearly 400 commits, not that many. It's a release cycle, and many of those commits are also merge commits, because now every change has to happen. If it's a fix, it will happen in 4.5, and then it will be merged over to the main branch. So 4.5 and Blender 5 have the same fixes when possible, right? So let's start with something that is not a fix. It's in optimization in the graph editor when editing keys that have when using the proportional editing tool, the O key. Apparently it was very slow. Still, I mean, it went from in a test down here is also a bug fix. It went from 42 seconds to 14 seconds, so way faster. Still doing a lot of work, but this is one of those extreme cases, so any optimizations are very much welcome. Then 4.5 is getting ready. Actually, once Blender 4.5 went beta, there's supposed to be no big changes. However, there is a few exceptions that were added because of compatibility with Blender 5. Blender 5 breaks compatibility with some previous versions of Blender because it allows, for example, for bigger blend files, right? Bigger buffers inside of the blend files. Or, for example, in this case, the ID names. I've seen multiple times requests from users about having longer names because maybe they prepare the materials with a script that is based on a bunch of things that like programmatically adding a version, a type, a project, whatever. So the 63 byte limit was a bit too short. Now it's 256. So if you save a file with a long name in Blender 5 and then you open it with Blender 4, it's not gonna work. But Blender 4.5 can prepare and have some special code to prepare for that version change. And what it will do, it's explained here, but it will basically like try to truncate the name and make it unique in some way. Let's see. Geometry nodes naming object. I'm reading the chat as much as I can here, by the way. So hi chat. Yeah, we need naming nodes for naming. Removals also for 5.0. It's a good time to get rid of old stuff from Blender and then keep Blender lean and clean. For example, the legacy icon option in brushes has been removed because you don't need this system anymore. Now the brushes are assets, and assets have previews, like thumbnails, proper thumbnails. You don't need this kind of custom icon anymore. So it's good to start getting rid of old stuff. What else? In other news, a bunch of build changes, because a new version means new libraries in some cases. Although Blender 5 will still be, because it will be released this year, it will still be compatible with the VFX platform libraries of this year, which includes 4.4, 4.5, and 5.0. So all versions, same libraries as listed in the VFX platform. Then, bunch of cleanups as usual to keep Blender very shiny, spotless, very clean. Then we switch into the Compositor, one of the areas with the biggest changes in 4.4 and now 4.5 also. Set crop node default size to 1920 by 1080. It used to be 100. The crop value by 100. Who crops a render? Maybe it could take the value from, it would be smart if we would take the value from the render size, for example, but this already is the default render size for Blender, so makes sense. Yeah, well, 100 was a bit too conservative. Like, what are you doing, a thumbnail? Then the Compositor now supports group inputs. This is in preparation for something amazing that's coming, which is reusable Compositor node setups. This is not there yet, it's not implemented yet, but it is coming. And basically we'll be able to have multiple compositing setups in one blend file, as opposed to now that they are just part of the scene and they're built into, like, burned into the scene basically. So you need different scenes for different compositors. Not anymore. Soon, not now, but soon. This is a step in the right direction, because the group input node, in this case, what we'll do, it's try to match the input name with the pass name. In that case, image is an alias for a combined pass, and you can read more here, but basically it's coming. Super excited about that, because this will allow reusing the Compositor setup in other places, in other sequences. I don't want to spoil too much, but what's coming, it's amazing. So it's awesome. All right. Flip node options have been turned into inputs in the same way that other nodes have in the past. So let's see, what were those? Flip node. Oh, this is also 4.5. Nice. This actually made it to the version subfile 85 in 4.5. Nice. This must have been on the verge of the switch, of the change. Then implement toggle for backdrop gizmos. I asked about this last week, and many people seem to agree. There is now a option in the Compositor. We can actually see it here. I happen to have Blender 5 ready, and yeah, there is a toggle now for gizmos. You can disable them if you don't like them. Gizmos are those, for example, in the box mask or other nodes that show this, that sometimes can get on the way if you have your setup there and you just don't want it there. You can disable it and only have the backdrop in this case. Would be nice if that backdrop also will have, well, if you're not computing it, like maybe like a slight outline, like cameras have, so you can see where the boundaries are. Like now it's just very empty. Not the transparency, the checkboard, that might be a bit in. Well, maybe it would make sense. What do you think? Next, there are also a new option that exposed the Eevee, anisotropic sampling on the compositor's interpolation enum. So this makes it accessible in other places. The anisotropic interpolation. Let's see. Which ones? Let's see. Corner pin, rotate, scale, stabilize, and transform. This is a very scientific way of checking which version, which nodes have this option exposed. Then, speaking of exposing, the template errors, so the variables that were introduced a few weeks ago. Now when there is an error in the variable name, for example, if you want to output to say the render folder / blend num instead of name with a typo there, Blender will actually tell you, will print an error. And I think there was a video somewhere here. Yeah, basically. So if you see it, there is a so once, for example, you try to render and it renders, but it doesn't know where to save it, then the field, well, it happens to be covered by this overlay. I hate overlays because now I want to show you what is the bottom here. You cannot see it. And maybe if I just don't move, let the mouse go, there you go. It becomes red. The field becomes red, so you can tell that there is an error. What else? It's in the compositor is done. The core, it's done. Cycles has only one change, which is related to Linux. So on Linux, so if you're on AMD and on Linux, the version of the HIP SDK has been upgraded to fix a number of crashes and issues. However, it is slower. Yeah, so the downside of this change is that the curve intersection in HIP-RT being slower, about 10% slower. But hey, I'll take slower and not crashing other than crashing really fast. So that's it for cycles and Linux in this case. Speaking of versions, yeah, the dependencies for Python, for a number of Python packages has been updated. These include charset normalizer, IDNA, URL div, C standards, certify, bytecode style, and one of that's very used is requests. Here are the version numbers if you wanna have a look. Then documentation, draw changes. No, not with S. Let's talk about Eevee. Eevee, I don't know if you noticed lately, if you use the daily builds, you may have noticed that Blender launches much faster. Starts like, it feels like it's ready to go much faster. And that is thanks to so much work in many areas, thanks to Hans, Clement, Miguel Pozos. Well, you know, everyone that is working in many areas of Blender. It's all a one big thing, but mainly Clement and Miguel are working on this. For example, this small change by Hans brings a 2% improvement in playback FPS because it's using a simpler hash for looking up stuff. Nice. But then Clement added this, deferred texture loading. This has a new function to the query of GPU texture from an image data block without actually creating them. This allows to keep track of the textures and so on and so forth. So basically, it means that something that used to take 5.7 seconds in loading a number of textures is now 2.5 seconds. So less than half, way less than half. On a Linux workstation, the improvement was around 2.28x speed up. On a MacBook Pro, it was a bit more, 2.72. And this is on an M1 MacBook Pro. It's not even like the latest. So super nice improvements in there. Twice, over 3 times as fast to load textures. And that's not the only one, actually. There is another one where they're splitting the static shaders in different compilation caches so they can be multi-threaded and they can be loaded more and also load only when they are needed, because you only need certain shaders when you need them, right? Why would you load SSS shader if you don't have it yet, if you're not using it, or ray tracing if you're not using it? Super nice that they're doing this. This is pure performance improvement. What are the improvements? So let's see. what the default with no subprocesses on NVIDIA was about 21 seconds, fully blocking Blender for 21 seconds. Then with some subprocesses, 20 seconds. The PR, this change makes it 14 seconds, some stutters in between. When more workers are used, 6, and then at some point it becomes slower again, 16 seconds. But sorry. Yeah, thank you. Sorry, I'm still trying to recover from maybe I need mate. That's the thing. Still recovering from I don't know, what was it? COVID? It's been 2 weeks. Next, so yeah, basically Eevee loads faster now. Like Eevee is everything. The same for thanks everyone in the chat, and the same for the GPU part of Blender. We're gonna see it now in a bit. So many fixes, so many. Actually, up here I mentioned there is 114 fixes. So not bad, team. On top of all those fixes and more fixes, and thank you for reporting them, by the way. Did you know that you can actually look up the metrics.blender.org? You can actually see where, like, how many bugs are being reported lately. And you see, for example, the average high severity bug when they were going down at some point, March, April, and then bam, went up again. And now they're going back again, down. So okay, it's not too bad. Every day about 25. The amount of that are there. I mean, they fix them and they go down, but around 20 something, below 30, which is a good thing, of high severity bug reports. And then you can see the bug reports, open bug high severity bugs. You can see the commits and so much. You can even see the repository. Wow, nice. So open. Let's see. And then we arrive into the GPU, which is related to the what I was mentioning before. For example, compilation priority. Now the developers can mention, we can say, okay, which shader has priority over others. In this case, it helps to tell what will start working right away and what can be loaded after the first batch. Async compilation of a static shaders class allows to easily request async compilation in a safe way for every shader, and so many others. Support for non-blocking specialization, again, for subprocess compilation. And then enable GL multi-threaded compilation by default. So super nice. And actually there even this option in the preferences that makes it possible to override the default amount of worker threads, and optionally they use subpresses. So these subpresses is what it was before. So if you have better performance with the previous method, that's the case. But now it's now it's an option, and you can set it as, you can do tests, because at some point it was going slower. Remember what we tried before in the graph we saw before? At some point it just doesn't help. For example, here in Intel drivers, apparently it was like for workers 0.4, 0.3, and then 0.25, where some cases actually, so it's like some cases even makes it worse. So yeah, try your sweet spot for your setup. In geometry nodes, a number of changes, including a new node. Look at this amazing write-up by Jack. It's a new node called format string node. This allows you to basically take a string and have like variables inside, like naming. Let's see, and here there was a very nice video that shows this. Let's see, maybe I can show it here. So here it's connecting red, green, and blue, and it makes these formats like RGB, and then it uses inside these as variables. So in this case, it's writing the test R and then 0.2 for the decimals, and then it becomes this. It takes the value of red, and then it becomes 0.8. And as you change it, it As here Jack changes the color, it updates the value of what red would be. Isn't that amazing? You can access yeah, like variables, names, converting data into variables in this case. So cool. Like in this case, I think if they adding the ABC values, and even without specifying, Blender will try to interpret that. And then another one, format string, join string to curves. So cool, so cool. Next, the socket structure types and display has some changes. There is a new socket type for grid apparently, and yeah, it looks like a Windows 11 logo. Yes, I don't know if that's the last version or it's just an old. I haven't checked how it looks at the moment. It is a 4-month old PR. So yeah, nice changes to geometry node socket structure type and display changes. And you can actually choose here the structure type apparently for automatic, which will do whatever, like what it used to do at the moment. You can force it to be single, dynamic, a field, or a grid. And grid is the one that has that logo. I'm actually curious about the grid. If it's can I just make a new input and then change this structure type? No, okay, it's not exposed. Or maybe because I haven't, you can just make up anything. Or maybe I'm looking at something that should be in debug and I'm just trying to access it. It is the latest version though. I am using 5.0 and it was compiled because I've been testing a bunch of things lately and even some PRs I've been working on. Yeah, main from today, 10th of, yes. Anyways, what else? Add error messages when simulations are not supported. Yay. There's another one that it's similar about error messages when simulation is in a loop or a closure, and now Blender will tell you there is like you have repeat and a simulation inside of a non-supported setup, and then we'll say you, hey, simulation must not be in a loop. Nice. Next. That's oh, almost. String node. When you drag and or when you create a new string node by drag and dropping, the default value would actually come from the whatever string you had before. This is similar to what was done for value, I think, and for integers and some other sockets. Now it's also for strings. Super nice quality of life improvements, and look how nice and minimal these nodes look. Let's see. Ooh, grease. What? Grease pencil. All right, we have so many different features here. One, a removal of a menu entry for removing weights in edit mode. That doesn't work. It's edit mode. It shouldn't even be exposed. But yeah, it was exposed. It's a small thing. Yeah, it was just confusing. So it would be always grayed out anyway. In one way, it's good for discoverability. You can just look at how you can just look at the tooltip and it would say to you, hey, you need to be in weight paint. But yeah. Although, why can't you remove weights in edit mode? Right? It should be, you can do it in edit. You can do it by selecting an object, like the vertices, and then marking them as, or removing them from vertex groups, right? So you can remove them. Why am I gonna, maybe. Anyways, less confusing this way. Next, a feature from 4.2 before the Blender Grease Pencil 3 migration. A feature that used to be called boundary strokes is now called fill guides, and it uses the same shortcut, Alt L left mouse button, and it works as usual, as it used to be. There are two new things though. One, there is a new cleanup remove fill guides operator, It's in the cleanup menu. Let's see. So whoops. So if I create a new 2D animation, there should be, well, cleanup should be here, right? Cleanup, yeah, cleanup. Remove fill guides. Remove all the strokes that were created from the fill tool as guides. Then another thing that it does is that it adds a new option to the fill tool to automatically remove fill guides once a fill has been created. So you make the guides first, add the fill. I don't know if you know this feature. It's basically you can draw like invisible lines. Say for example you have you have here you have my hand as an example, and then you want to fill up everything, but there's this gap between the fingers. Well, you can add like an invisible lines like guides, fill guides. Makes more sense now. It used to be called boundary strokes because you basically telling Blender where the boundary is, and then you use the fill tool and it would fill up this space like if there was some kind of geometry here in between, but it was just a guide. Now it's called fill guides for this reason. Super nice. Another operator that used to be in 4.2 has come back. It's the edit mode outline strokes operator, thanks to Casey Bianco and Falk for reviewing. And there is a new operator, speaking of operators, to convert the curve type as a new operator in Grease Pencil edit mode to convert between curve types. This acts as a replacement for the set curve type operator, as the new operator better aligns with previous workflows and artist expectations, specifically using a threshold to adjust how well the resulting curves fit to the original. Let's see if, oh yeah, super nice. Set curve type operator is no longer exposed in the stroke menu. Convert type. Similar to objects, actually. Nice. You know what else is nice? When you can see your Blender, and this is the title of this episode because it's you don't see this often. Like you can export. I didn't know it was even possible. You can export Grease Pencil animations as SVG. We all know this. But now you can also do it as like an animated SVG. And that is supported by all major browsers. So for example, these are SVGs. Like if I open this image, this here is an animation. It's an attachment you can see here. If I right click view source, I will probably, yes, I do. I see the SVG code, like it's text, but it is animated and it's called Blender Frames. So it even has its own frames. And you can probably parse this. Actually, Falk was mentioning that you could potentially parse this to import as well. SVG, animated SVGs into Blender. You would lose all the depth, of course, but it could work. Nice. And it even says generator Blender SVG export for Grease Pencil V2. Nice. You could probably say the Blender version. Would that help? But that's awesome. This is an animation SVG, pure text, render in Blender, exported, and working on Google Chrome here. But it works on all major browsers. So it's an animated SVG. It's part of the standard. So amazing. Nice. Boom, boom. Yeah, GIFs. Your days are counted now. Kidding. But hey, so cool. And because it's text, it will compress super nice, super fine. It will be light. It would be awesome. So nice. Thank you, Leon, for working on this. And half of the team reviewing this. And that's not it, because what is an animation without motion blur? And that is supported now by Grease Pencil as well. Yes, you heard it right. Grease Pencil motion blur has come a reality, and it looks like this. So this is just a regular Grease Pencil animation with motion blur. This is there's the same tech that Eevee uses. This thanks to the changes made to Eevee recently, and it will change how you render your animations. You don't have to do any weird experiments, post-processing. No, it's all part of the option that is now visible. So you can turn it on and off, motion blur, and then the grease pencil panel will show the motion blur steps. It's one property where you choose the number of steps or how defined will be the motion blur. And once you enable it, it will be not grayed out. So neat. So nice. Heart and happiness and thumbs up. And rocket. Nice. So cool. Thank you, Folk, for working on this. And let's move on to, all right, again, time to you know, let's remove some things. So this 5.0 removal section. Open Collada has been deprecated in Blender 4.2. So the previous LTS from last year. The current LTS, so the Blender 4.5 LTS, which is supported until 2027, supports Open Collada. It's marked as deprecated, but it is supported. You can still use Blender 4.5 to export your all your collada for all your collada needs. However, Blender 5 removes Open Collada. There is a lengthy thread with the explanation of how why it's happening. Basically, it has been inactive for several years, 6-7 years. No updates, no security updates. It's definitely not a good option to have around anymore because there's so many better options. There's a nice write-up by Aras that mentions that 4.5, which is supported until 2027, will be the last one with Collada IO. There are many ways of replacing Collada with GLTF, USD, or even FBX is a better option than Collada. So that's it. It's time to move on to more modern open source options like GLTF are so much better than this. No one is forcing you to use FBX. Actually, if you can avoid FBX and go for open source alternatives. Okay. Let's see. Another removal. Before 2.80, yes, many people may not aware that there was a time before Blender 2.8 that, yeah, Blender internal and Blender had a different, it was very, very different back then. It was a weird time for all of us. The textures had many options for filtering, like mapping, Gaussian filters, eccentricity, so many options that were no longer used, but they were still around for some reason. I think only brushes were using it, but they were not even used. So they have been removed. And these also remove the RNA properties, and these basically are completely, it removes about 2,000 lines of code, and that is very welcome. But even the Collada change removes 21,500 lines of our own code, not even counting the library itself. 21,000 lines. Blender, it's smaller by 4 megabytes on Windows and by 9 megabytes on macOS. And 95 megabytes, depends on per platform, has been removed from the libraries of Blender. So pretty welcome change. Let's see. What else? Changes Jack. Oh, nice. A fix in Jack. Then we have logging, mesh changes. Mesh. This is an internal change to improve memory management, memory usage in Blender, that the normals and the positions have been of subdivision have been moved to the GPU. Super nice. Then speaking of moving, now modeling. One change to the vertex dissolve. Actually, this is a bug fix. The vertex dissolve operator now has a new option called angle threshold, which helps to to specify Blender where to dissolve the edges, the remaining edges, in when using this tool. So this is actually not new. This has been around for a few versions now. I remember making the release notes, which I actually have to work on the release notes for 4.5 soon. Yeah. So that has been changed. Yay, memory. More memory. Then modifiers. Change softbody fuzzy default value. Oh, now it's more fuzzy. Fuzzy 1. When softbody modifier is added, as of now, value is 0. This raises concern by division by 0. So, hey, no divisions by 0. Let's not try to break the planet here. The movie clip editor has a preview range option. Nice. I didn't know it was missing. So yeah, the preview range, that one you run with the P for specifying a range that is not the scene range, but just a quick preview range, is now supported by the movie clip editor. End of. If you have a Space Navigator, 3D connection, or any other end of n degrees of freedom device, the UI and the preferences have been improved by the people that work at the manufacturers of the most popular ones, 3D Navigate, so 3D connection from Space Navigator. So welcome additions. In theory, because I haven't followed much of this, it's on, in theory, in practice. It's a refresh of the UI to make it a bit more clear based on user feedback. There is a thread, there is a design of in it where they explain that it's based on user feedback. So it's also welcome. All right, and for notes, bunch of changes. Improve usage inferencing when some inputs are unknown. So when you don't have an input defined, or the input is not known by Blender in the node editor in general, Blender will now specify some values for you. Well, it used to do it again since always, but not always what the users expected. So now this is the case. There is a long list here where you can read all these changes, what means what, for float, for integer, for math, and in this case, for example, what fixes is that the fields that used to be grayed out by mistake no longer grayed out, and some other cases here that Jack mentions. The next change is similar, but for the mix node, and the same for the vector math node has been done here to improve inferencing. Then searching. Yes, have you ever, and this I know will make many people happy, especially me. By the way, did you notice how fast it went to shading? Every time I click on shading, I fear for Blender just getting stuck, but actually it was super fast. Texture paint, okay, that one took a bit longer. Yeah, nice. Have you ever wanted to search for like pointiness? Yay, now you can search for pointiness, or any other option that it's in the geometry, or any textures geometry. It was done all across Blender. You can now search for specific options that were not available before. For example, scene time in the Compositor, or camera info, mouse position, scene viewport transform, camera data, coarse info, geometry, volume info, light path, or for example, yeah, light path. If you want to use the light path, so for example, let's see, what is it? Raycasting, or like side back face. Let's see. Back facing. There you go. Now I can search for back facing, when back facing part of your material. So nice. Yes, it was about time. I missed this all my life, basically. Searching for pointiness. Sometimes it would happen that we would be watching a tutorial and the user there searching for pointiness and it's not there, and I will cry inside. So super nice addition. Thank you, Jack. But yeah, the output names, by the way, are hard-coded in the menu. However, would that mean that add-on developers can add this themselves and specify a option like add node with outputs, or like search? Also, I know you can add specific search values. So cool. Let's move on. Support creating wrapper node groups that keeps the original interface. Well, have you ever spent time expanding and collapsing some panels in your nodes, and then you make a group, and then Blender doesn't remember which groups were open? Now it does. Now making a group node, Command G, Control G, will remember the open close status of the panels. Nice. Next, CPU optimizations for the Voronoi node. It is about 5 to 10% faster on an F1 3D Voronoi, thanks to ADAS. Thank you. So this affects cycles and CPU execution of the Voronoi node in CPU. Next, the frame. Remember that a few weeks ago I mentioned that the frame node has better label positioning, like basically not obstructing the way. Well, that wasn't the the case when you add timing or other overlays in the nodes, like named attributes. Now that has been fixed. So if we look at the result now, the label will always be on top of whatever overlay gets added. So nice. Small Quality of Life by Jason Wenger. Thank you. The power and sign operations have been added to the vector math node. This adds power and sign as per element channel operation to the vector math node. Neat. Then when searching for frame, Blender will first list the frame node, and that wasn't always the case. You can always just press F now. Sorry. You can always just press F now, so no need to search for frame anymore, which when you search for frame now, the options in the frame scene time frame node will show up first. Basically, all that was needed was to add a search weight of -1 to the frame that you want to have less priority. Super cool. API, Python API for the is inactive and is icon visible for nodes has been added. So now you can access to see if a node socket is active or not, or the icon is visible or not. And last but not least, the overlay buttons such as overlays, snap, backdrop, gizmos are no longer, they don't look like active. They are like dimmed when there is no content in the tree. That was a bit confusing because you would press them and then nothing will happen. Yeah, they didn't make any sense when there was no tree around. Okay, time to talk about the outliner and a breaking change for your muscle memory. And I really hope that this is something you wanted. I've seen the community asking for it. I've seen good feedback on the pull request. The change is that now when you drag and drop an object in the outliner onto another object, by default it will apply it will keep the transformation. So if you don't know what I mean is that if you have this object here, this here, for example, you parent this object to this object, Control P. If you don't keep the transform when you parent, this transform of the parented object will will be offset. Basically, there's a video here. Why would I even? Okay, so this is the issue. So you have these two objects. This is keeping the transform. This is without keeping the transform. So you parent, drag and drop, parent, and it would do the opposite of what you expected, basically. And now it will just keep the transform. So this is a very small change. Apparently some other software doesn't even have the option to not apply a transform, and Blender has it by default. So this is now the behavior in the outliner. You drag and drop and the object stays where it is because the transformation will be applied. Now, question to you. This behavior, should it be the default? Because now when you select two objects and make Control P to parent, there is object, which is the default, which doesn't keep transform. Keep transform, which actually does what you probably want, and then the other ones. should this be switched? Should this be object, and by default just that, and then object discard transform? So an option to discard it instead of keeping it. What do you think? Because there is a PR actually by the same user, by Dangri, that does this. So should it be the case? There is a PR around here that renames the object keep transform to discard transform and reverse the behavior. So basically it will look like this. What do you think? Thumbs up? Thumbs down? Next. Overlay, but sync. Oh, more changes in the overlay. So the shaders for the overlays were taking a lot of time in startup. In some tests, it was taking up to 15 seconds. When you open Blender, all the overlays were taking up to 15 seconds in some cases. I think it's pretty extreme. I never waited 15 seconds for Blender to start. I don't use add-ons. Maybe that's one thing. I don't remember. Or maybe this is like super cold start. In winter, you start Blender and the first thing you do, even before it loads the drivers. Anyways, it went from 15 seconds to 3 seconds in a default viewport start time on a test by Clement. So nice. And all these changes really add up. All right, let's talk about paint. Wow, changes to paint. New support for color jittering when using paint. So now there is an ability to randomize the color of each stroke or use the Perlin noise randomization during the stroke. Works similarly to the grease pencil stroke color randomization, which is what Blender used to have, what it has. And this feature is available for all mesh color painting modes. You can texture paint, weight paint, sculpt paint. Would it make sense to randomize the weight in weight paint mode? Anyways, that's so cool. So how does it even work? So I can go to vertex paint and I could, let's see if I can even find out. Randomize color panel here. And then let's change the hue and the saturation a bit. And let's actually have some color because now I am not using color. So, ooh, nice. Reminds me of Heavy Paint by Vaughn. Nice. All right, and so let's see. Awesome, thank you, Charles, for working on this. Oh, it's on right-click select. Oh my God, somebody asked for it 4 years ago. Neat. Okay, nice. I wanted to log in, but I want to leave it here so I can log in and mark it as done. So nice. Another option, forward compatibility code. Brush size, and yeah, the brush size is gonna be changed to be from radius to be diameter, and because it's circular, right? And this will affect Blender 4.5 will be ready to accept those changes. So just a heads up. The animation player that runs, so you can run Blender without running Blender, just the animation player now chooses the proper GPU backend, so Vulkan, Metal, or Vulkan or OpenGL, that's it. There is no other option in macOS. So beware of any changes, any flickering, anything weird when using the animation player. Next, Python API. There is one new option to check if Blender is using the experimental features or not. Just checking. A bunch of refactors, reverts. The sculpt mode has a new limit of leaf node limit, which basically performance. Let's see how much faster it is. Multi-res, painting or sculpting using multi-res should be now much faster, about a 3 times speed up. In this test, from 0.63 seconds to 0.2 seconds on a multi-res grid with 25 million vertices at multi-res level 5. Not bad. On a simulated brush stroke, testing similar of what a user would do. So basically telling Blender move the mouse from here to here. On a grid with 6 million vertices at multi-res level 5, it was about 1.4 times faster. So from 41 FPS to 58 FPS. Not bad. So good. Multi-res is faster now when you more responsive when you paint. Always welcome. Shaders. Oh yeah, there is a new default value for bump and displacement. The default value for bump is now 1 millimeter, while it's 1 centimeter for displacement by default. It's a new default basically. Nice. It's a pull request. The default was too high for most scene. Now it's 1 millimeter for bump and 1 centimeter. Nice. Lots of support actually. I see here. Nice. Next. If you have other defaults that you think are worth changing, and now is the time. Blender 5 is a good moment to change defaults or any big major version, because then tutorials can be updated, and there will probably be updated anyway, and you can do that on rightclickselect.com, this website where you can make proposals, and defaults are easy changes, but it needs support from the community to like this amount of support, for example. It's very clear that users want it. Okay, let's talk about UNI, user interface. Make light exposure soft limits match the color management exposure. So now when you hold control, these steps will go in every 10th, and minus 32 to 32 is the hard limit and the UI limit. So when you hold control, exposure will go every 10. Basically matching color management, same. Then a small thing, when active elements in UI list will, when you mouse over, now they will be highlighted on active elements. So very subtle, but it's there. It's nice because you can still act on them, and when you click on it, it gets calculated. So makes sense. Nika updated some capitalization issues that were in Blender, which I missed. Thank you so much. Bunch of them. The search box width is now automatically set to be wider if needed. Also a welcome addition if there is like it didn't make sense when it was too long for small content, so now makes sense. If there is a need for it, it will make it wider. The tooltip when dragging multiple elements, multiple files, has now been improved. It will now tell you how many files you're dropping, basically. So if you have there you go. If you drag and drop, file selector will tell you, for example, one file will tell you the number of files with this icon. I don't know if that is the last version, because this has changed. Here we can actually see it, drag and dropping multiple elements. For example, multiple objects now tells you objects. Now I think this is just showing a bug, because otherwise it's worse than before. There you go. This updates the icon and the number. There you go. Nice. Next, wow, this was suggested, I think, on right click select some time ago, and maybe here in the chat as well, that when you add a new reference image, by default Blender used to have it in the empty. So when so for example, I'm a new user, right, and I want to add a new image, like a reference image. I do Shift A because I learned that that's what you do for adding, and then where would you go? There is an entry called image, right? So you will go there, and then you choose what kind of image. So it's an empty image, reference, background. The difference is that these three actually open the file browser, where actually this should have a 3 dot at the end, because they all open a dialog. Whereas the empty image just adds an empty that supports images. And before, that used to be in the empty panel. So you first have to know what is an empty before even adding the image, so it didn't make much sense. Small thing. But it was on right-click select. Somebody suggested, and it makes sense, and it was super easy to do. It just needs to just change the menu. Then the shape keys list, you can now drag and drop to search. However, that comes with a downside. So basically, this drag and drop advanced technology is part of a widget called Tree View, which is used in many other places in Blender. And it looks like a regular list, but you may recognize it by not having search at the moment, not having ways to sort at the moment. This will be tackled eventually. But yeah, you gain some, you lose some. Hopefully within the 5.0 cycle, we can bring this back. But yeah, apparently the users prefer for drag and drop. And also this will support selecting multiple shape keys, which you can use to combine shape keys, for example, so operate in multiple at the same time. But also we could have groups. We could have shape key groups, for example, or all kinds of things once you can multi-select. And eventually all this will be replaced with this system, by the way. Speaking of all, there is a new operator to remove all the particle systems from an object. Yep, there's an option for that now. Particle system in Blender is end of life. There is no new feature for this. But the feature, I mean, the user made it. It really doesn't hurt much. It's not a lot of code to maintain, and it makes sense because once this gets replaced with something else, you may want to have a way to clean up multiple items at the same time. This option is listed in the particle settings list, by the way. So here, if you select an object, go to particles, there is a new option to remove all particle systems when it makes sense. Oh no, nice. This is missing a poll. Operates a poll to check if this should work or not. I should mention this in this PR. Actually, we can do it now. Well, or this works when you have multiple. So if you have this here. Okay, no, it only works in the active object, which is good. But then here we are missing then that this should have a poll. So should I copy this and then I go here and then I say, hey, just notice this is missing a poll. Would you please have a look? Being nice always helps. A poll to check if there actually are particle system. There you go. Bam. I mean, I should make a bug report, or maybe just telling in the chat, because it's not a bug, right? It's technically a bug, but you don't want to be that guy, right? And last, the top bar are now displayed as pills. These lists, these tabs are now pills shaped. And it's a bit weird that only this change landed so far, but this is part of a bigger change. There are many other parts of Blender that are changing just slightly how they look to make it a bit more consistent. There's tabs, not really tabs per se, and there was always a divider in between, so it didn't look great. There are other PRs, actually some of them are by myself, such as, let's see if I can find it, draw sidebar tabs as pills. So this was also a right-click select request at some point to basically change the tabs, how they look at the moment for this shape. And this helps a lot because it makes it so the bar is transparent, super nice. The thing doesn't look like it's sticking into nowhere. And we could do things like this, like highlighting it with a different color so it's more clear. So, yep, nice. But yeah, this is still not added. It's a working PR that I made. Let's see. USD. Implement new dome light schema for import. Not familiar with this enough to tell you what it does, but you can read the release logs and use it. So basically, I guess it allows you to import dome lights and convert them into Blender world. And next, in the video sequence editor, there's 3 changes. One, scene strips now have improved validation. So when they're in validation, so I guess also validation. So when they don't work anymore, when there is something changed, when there is some dependency that was broken, now the cache for the scene will be invalidated properly and work. Basically, bug fixing. The change effect type operator was pretty loose with these requirements. It would somehow let you change the effect for other effects that require different inputs. For example, if you want to have an adjustment layer, right, that's fine. Or a glow. You only need glow in one strip. But if you want a transition, an effect, cross transition, you need at least 2 strips. And Blender will let you change this and basically break. And Blender shouldn't let you break your stuff. So super nice. Thank you, John, for working on this and making nice PR. So now you see it's all grayed out properly. So nice. And last but not least, there has been another breaking change in your muscle memory, because the shortcuts for next and previous strip in Blender were basically the opposite of every other software in the world. There was no reason why it was done this way. It was just something that was decided at some point. But it wasn't even following anything in Blender particularly. It wasn't even like the Blender way. So now this has been changed. So basically, now you hold, what is it? Control? No, page down, actually. And then you can, okay, yeah, you can use Alt as well. But you can use page down. Basically, page down and page up has been switched. So you do page down and we'll go to next, whereas you do page up and it will go to the previous, I believe. It's the same for the compatible, industry compatible key map. And that is all, actually. I covered everything we had for this week, and it's not even 1.5 hours. Look at that, we have time to spare. And I didn't make a thread this week. Let's see. Okay, so has anyone made it? No. So how's the chat? How's everyone doing here? Let's hang out for a moment. How's everyone doing here? Let's see. Side tabs are hard to read and scroll though. What is it hard to scroll? Hard to scroll. You can mouse over or slide top. Controlling color RAM from node group. Yeah, that's one. That's in the top 10 requests. Apparently it's very hard, and I bet that that many have tried. I bet. I hear developers often say like, you know, I actually tried that thing, you know what they mentioned, I actually tried and I couldn't make it work. It was on a weekend late at night, and it happens. It happens. I think they do more than what ends up being as pull requests. If you have any add-ons installed, it's hard to navigate the side tabs, then don't have any add-ons installed. No, then just tell the add-on developers that not every add-on needs to be in the 3D viewport. Not everything is in the 3D viewport. There's you can literally place a panel anywhere in Blender. But yeah, I know what you mean. There are add-ons that allow you to sort the categories, the tabs. It would be nice to actually sort, like click and drag, or even have a collapsed or a pin. Actually, you can pin panels. Not many people use the feature, but you can pin panels. If you use the, I don't know, the 3D cursor panel a lot, you can just right click, pin it, and this will be consistent across all your tabs. So if you have, I don't know, something from an add-on that people use all the time, let's see what add-on. I recently installed everything, so okay, let's use Node Wrangler. Yeah, Node Wrangler is not in the 3D viewport, because it makes sense. Let's get an extension on Screencast. I haven't installed this one in my new setup, So say I have screencast and I wanted always to have a way to start screencast key. And then, okay, this is one that particularly maybe use a lot of space, but yeah, you can have it there always. Sorted, boom, always there. Let's see. Add-on managers. Add-ons need own handle space. And then people will complain that the handle space is too busy. Is Sculpt layer is going to be released with 5.0? They're pretty close, I think. They're waiting on, well, waiting, no. They're working on the multi-res first. You can actually look at the projects for 2025. Blog post on code.blender.org. Why is that pin function not visible? What do you mean? You can right click on it. You can control click, I think. Control click. Where is it? Command click. I thought there was a shortcut for it. Oh, shift click. There you go. You can shift click on a panel. So you can make tuk 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 tuk. Why is it not visible always? Well, because oh, it's, I don't know. Would you like to have that icon everywhere? Maybe it would be good for well, apparently no one has ever noticed it. But yeah, the pin definitely needs to be an expose button. Here? Would you expose it? That's actually really good feedback. Do you think it should be exposed? Because it is super easy to do. It's just a one-liner, basically. But then it will be a bit noisy. Maybe you have a bunch of pin icons, but then you actually will know what they do. Interesting. Search will be nice. Yeah, search will be amazing. Pablo, have you seen the Reddit post? No, actually haven't seen Reddit in ages of a virus inside of a blend file. Any plans on antivirus scanners in the importers? No, there are no plans on that. But you should, when you open Blender, when you open a blend file, there is a the option to trust those files is disabled by default. And you can actually go further and make it so in your system setting or save and load, you can auto run script that you trust. So you can put this on and then maybe add like home user, whatever, and then download. So you can basically add folders that you know that you want to trust always. To not trust, basically. These excluded paths. But yeah, don't open files without knowing where they come from. It's just regular recommendation. Vulkan is crashing the Blender while tweaking little fat. Go and please report. Vulkan bugs are on high demand. Apparently Jorun, the main developer behind it, he says that he doesn't get enough bug reports. So from the developer point of view, everything is working great. Please report. Vulkan, like many other hardware related changes, depends a lot on your setup, on your operating system, and on your driver's version. There is no way that one developer here at the studio will have all the operating system, driver versions, and hardware available to test it. So we really rely on your feedback from the community as much as possible. GeoNodes having selection input would be enough. It would be great. Yes. Let's see. I'm gonna click it by accident if it's always there. You see? Can be always. How would anyone know that? But just click around. It's now I see what you mean. I was thinking using Nuke that we should work more on the compositor effects, things like advanced chroma key for green screen, better masking, roto, etc. AI, use AI. No, they have been doing amazing movies without AI, so there must be ways of doing it without. Imagine how many more hidden features Blender has like that pin. Plenty. But it's getting better. It's getting better. Dark theme is already the default. Yeah, somebody made it make the Blender dark theme the default. It is the default. I'm planning to make some small changes to the theme for 5.0. I want to work on the contrast, improve contrast. Sure, we expose dot. If we don't show it to the user, they will never know it. Yeah, but then like if you expose everything that is available to the user, then you end up with a cluttered UI, right? Like, yes, you have a bunch of operations to do on an object, all right, in the outliner, but you do not have a tool here for every operation. And yeah, the same for here, right? You can right click, add a driver, or like, well, keyframes actually is exposed here. Locking also, but drivers is not. Do you want a button here also for drive? Yeah, you gotta choose what to expose and not. Maybe it will be a lot of icons, but I never noticed it was there either. Good day, Pablo. Now that Vulkan is on par with OpenGL, would OSL shaders be updated or removed to be more GPU oriented? Well, Blender doesn't ship with many OSL shaders, right? But I guess you could. I'm not familiar with it enough. But Blender doesn't ship with any OSL shader as far as I know. Blender asks if you want to run a script on import too. I think yes, it does. Blender will get onion skin option for mesh. Oh, I've seen actually animators. Like it's somewhere in the roadmap. I know someone wants to work on it now. However, the main developer behind the project for Animation 2020, the module owner of that area, is working now on online assets, all splitting its time. So things take time. Does Blender have hardware in the loop testing before a release is released? Blender has a lot of hardware for testing. There are tests running continuously, and every night there is like a big test thing that is done on that is run. Then on the chat in the Blender chat, there is a bot that it tells you when some build didn't pass the tests or failed in some way, and the developers know about it. So yeah, there is. Index switch for shader editor. AI isn't useful. We can have the same capabilities ourselves. Sounds nice. I don't mind changing to the default dark theme. Which changes? More dark, less dark? Because it's kind of gray now, in a way. But I like it, this gray. It's like gray enough. There's some that even use it darker, and they call it Pro, right? There is the extensions, themes, what is it? Pro? Dark Pro, there you go, Dark Pro. And it's darker. I don't know if it makes it Pro, but it's darker for sure. I guess if you're at night dark, maybe you like this, but it gets a bit much. I think by default it should be a bit more neutral in a way. Okay, it's almost okay. 5 minutes already past 30. Let's we'll try to save energy myself. More blue once Harry blends. Okay, let's try to go through all of this here. Maybe if it could ask you how much clutter you want or something. Seems hard to balance. Blender ask you how much. It's not intuitive to right click on a panel. Why not? I mean, why not? It's a panel, right? I mean, it's not intuitive because you don't have any actions yet. Like, it doesn't work here. It only works in the sidebar. So it is not intuitive indeed, but it's not that unintuitive. It's right click. Hey, I don't know why Blender 4.4 stops on my PC. Try Blender 4.5 beta. Maybe it has been fixed, and if not, please report as a bug. Pablo, I will do a PR soon to discussion about the new way to place the lights in a scene. I would like to native my implemented and in a Blender. You can have an overview with my add-on Lumos. Nice. I love when add-on developers decide to add features to Blender itself. That's how Blender grows. You could also place the pin button inside the panel and then show the pin on the header only when pinned. No, but then it would mean that there will be something here, right? Like if it would be inside, then you wouldn't have content. You will have one more extra line. Why GeoNode linear? Oh, what happened? Linear Gizmo doesn't have screen space off option. Right click select. Is bake node coming to the shader editor? Not that I know. There are baking improvements coming in the roadmap. One of my features is curve animation, basic generating curves for bone movement, but editing those as splines once exposed. How can you write custom scripts in the node shader editor? I mean, how you can write custom? Okay. Yeah, but you do it in a text editor. You don't write it in the node editor. Are some comments locked on here? There is the moderation. Automatic moderation by YouTube. I like dark gray, not the black dark theme. I would like to use an edit mode for lights. Oh, edit mode for lights. That would be cool. Sculpt mode for lights. An edit mode where you can place the highlights. Yes, that would be awesome. You can say, okay, this spotlight, I want the highlight here. And then you move it around and it's always there. So nice. Pixar has something like that. Properties Windows context don't have enough contrast. Tutorial makers don't change it and it's hard to tell which context is selected. The active tab. Yes, we're going to work on that. Right click makes no sense. Should be left click. For a context menu, no. Because if you right click, then you drag it. More contrasting model look for 5.0. You can right click in the headers and can right click in the viewport. Why is it panel any different? Did you saw the port one guy made for Blender to Android? I haven't tested it yet. I saw someone making a video. I saw Decoded made a video about it. I saw that one. I haven't tried it myself. I don't have an Android device. An image input for the image node will be amazing. That will allow for parallax occlusion. Hope one day we can get bevel node support in Eevee. Yes, and I hope. And pointiness. Everyone press the like button. Yeah, thank you. And with that, we can wrap up. Yep. Yeah. Thanks everyone for staying until the end. It's been super nice. It's been I didn't think I would make it all the way to the end because I'm still quite sick and it doesn't seem to go away. So I'll try to take it easy today and go home early. Well, early. Nearly 7 p.m. I hope you had a good time. It's been 2 weeks. So much has happened since then. What about the next 2 weeks? When is the next time we're going to hang out? The 24th of June, which means 5.0 is going to be well into it, but still very early in the stage. So I think it's going to be interesting. I want to continue working on some other UI proposals for Blender 5. Widget design. By the way, we have opened. Did you know that Blender is hiding? Yes, Blender is hiding developers, and no, I don't see enough people talking about it. So blender.org/jobs will greet you with this picture of happy people, and there is 4 positions open actually. Senior real-time rendering engineer. Okay, this is way advanced. Senior graphics engineer as well. Development manager. And UX, user experience designer, a UX product designer in that can help us make Blender better, nicer, more intuitive, more Blender like. So if you are interested in this, there is an email somewhere to where to apply. That is it. No, hiding. Blender is hiding. Okay. That is all. By the way, the most of positions should come to Amsterdam. It's much cooler here, literally cooler, especially in summer. All right. Hope you had fun. I did, and I will definitely see you back in 2 weeks for another episode of this bi-weekly. This is working out, right? They're having it every 2 weeks. This is enough time to hang out. It's not to you don't get tired of it. You actually look forward to it. So I think it works. So let's meet again in about 2 weeks. Have fun. Happy blending. If you can, consider donating towards Blender or some other open source project. It always helps. Open source it's magic, and it brings good to the world, adds value to the world. So even if it's not Blender, send some other open source project that you believe in. That being said, except those that are called Open AI, that's what the heck, it's not open. And they took the name. Anyways, have fun. Bye. See ya. All right. See you. Thanks for hanging out with me.